No! No!
This is sadly the reality for an entire generation. And why is nobody talking about it? The current housing market is robbing our generation of their dream. Between bidding wars, interest rates rising, and stricter lending standards, we have an entire generation who could no longer become empty nesters. The average age of a first-time homebuyer rose from 32 to 36 and a half in 2022. Multi-generational living is now becoming a necessity, and I know what you're thinking. There's so many advantages to bringing several generations together under one roof, but what most people think when they picture multi-generational living is this: 8-year-olds living with their kids who are living with their kids. The reality of today is this is what multi-generational living looks like. 50-year-olds living with toddlers. Now, as much as I love my grandkids, I don't want to be stepping on Legos anymore, and honestly, my bladder is not strong enough to hold for the time it takes me to break the code to get into the bathroom. So then we came up with a very creative way to help our son buy his first home. And I know what you're thinking. We must be rich. Let me go back in time. Carrie and I started dating the summer of 1987. We were married in August 1990. Within 6 months after, we were pregnant with our first baby. By 27, we had 3 babies living in an apartment. We both wanted a house so bad, but we had no saving, no parent help, and very little common sense. We then found an ad in the newspaper for a local real estate agent who specialized in first-time home buyers with zero money down but good credit. We met with her, and she was able to secure a private loan for our 5% down, and our closing costs came from cash advances from our credit card. We were so house poor. With the prices of the medium home in Canada being over $700,000, we knew the only way our kids were ever going to own was with help from us. But how? We had spent most of our lives digging ourselves out of our own financial mess. So in 2016, when our son got engaged, I started to panic. Prices of houses were already starting to go up, and I knew they were nowhere near ready to buy a home. We were also creeping very close to 50, and we were starting to look at what we wanted the next chapter of our life to look like. We had all our kids in our 20s, so we looked at our 50s as a time when we could start focusing on our dreams. One of our dreams was to downsize to a country property, something with a little more space, a shop for my husband, and a driveway big enough to hold our growing vehicle population. Because you know, as your kids start driving, the vehicles start multiplying. So now we were planning a wedding, looking for a country home, and trying to figure out how my son and his fiance were going to buy their own home. The more country properties we looked at, the more we realized that anything that checked our box and fit into our price range, we're going to need full renovations. Now, we were experienced DIYers, but these projects were far bigger than anything we had ever done before. And I used to think, oh my God, if only we had this money in our 20s, what we could have done. And that was the moment the plan was born. They had the 20-year-old stamina, and we had the money. So this is the way the whole plan worked. We would find a country property that either had an apartment or the ability to add an apartment. Our son and his fiance would move with us and commit to 5 years. They would live in this completely self-contained apartment, and we would live in the rest of the house. In that 5 years, we would renovate the entire house from top to bottom, inside and out. We would cover all the costs of buying the house and all the costs of the renovations. They would pay 25% of the overhead for the house, meaning mortgage, utilities, taxes, insurance, etc. That total actually worked out to be about half of what it would cost them to rent anyplace else, because our mortgage wasn't that big at this point in our life. Then at the end of the 5 years, we would have the house reappraised. And whatever that reappraised value was, we would subtract all of the costs of buying the house and all of the costs of renovating it. And with what we had left was our earned equity. They would get 25% of that to take and go towards buying their own home. It was honestly brilliant, in my opinion. And I know this is not for everyone. What I'm saying is think creatively, think outside the box. It is so hard now for our kids to buy homes. It's not just a matter of getting a good job, working and saving. The obstacles in their way are so massive. And if there's any way we can help get them in that first step, it's the best gift you could ever give them. So at the end of the 5 years, we did have to give them their portion of the equity earned, but it was honestly probably about half as much as it would have cost us to hire contractors to do all this renovating. It was a lot nicer knowing that that money was going toward helping our son get his first house rather than contractors. We moved into our country home in November 2016. And 5 years later, in December 2021, Nick, Lindsay, and Hudson purchased their first home.